My name is Frank Miller. I'm a long-haul trucker. The kind of guy who gets the load delivered on time, gets the receipts signed, and gets ready for the next trip. This happened a few years back, during a winter when the snow fell so hard in the Rockies that people bolted their doors and didn't look outside. What I felt that night, though, it still rides with me today. I was driving for a company that had top-of-the-line rigs, big Peterbilts with spacious sleeper cabs, powerful heaters, double axles, every comfort a driver could need to tackle the hard roads. The load was heavy machinery, hauled out of Denver and headed for a remote mining operation up past Telluride, Colorado. I'd planned my route carefully, but in the mountains, sometimes your plans get buried under the snow. It was around 7 p.m., well after sunset, and I was climbing past the high passes when the first flakes hit my windshield. At first, I paid them no mind. Truckers aren't afraid of a little snow, we just know our limits. But this time, the limit came up on me fast. Within minutes, the flurries turned into a full-blown blizzard. My wipers, even on full blast, couldn't keep the glass clear. My headlights were on, but the light was just being swallowed by the wall of white. Suddenly, I felt the rig start to skate. The weight of the trailer was pushing me. The road was a sheet of ice, and I couldn't even see the shoulder. I said to myself, Frank, this is the place to stop. Not to push your luck. With great difficulty, I managed to pull the truck over onto a relatively flat stretch, engage the parking brake, and take a deep breath. Outside, the silence was so absolute that the sound of my own breathing felt loud. I thought the storm would pass. It didn't. 1 hour, then 2. Then I lost all sense of time. Around 1 a.m., I pulled back the curtain in my cab and my heart sank. The truck's tires were already buried in over 2 feet of snow, and it was still coming down hard. I started the engine. The rear wheel spun, kicking up snow, but the truck didn't move an inch. I tried again, and a third time. Same result. I pulled out my phone. 0 signal. That was the moment the thought first hit me. If I'm stuck here, truly stuck, no one will even know where to look. I closed all the curtains, kept the heater running, but a different kind of cold was setting in. I lay down in the sleeper, but sleep wouldn't come. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then I heard it again, a soft crunch, the sound of a footstep on fresh snow. I sat up instantly, listening. Silence. Then, again, crunch. This wasn't the wind. It was the distinct sound of snow being compressed. I carefully pulled back a corner of the windshield curtain. Outside, there was only darkness, falling snow, and the shadows of trees. Nothing. The third time the sound came, I saw a branch on a nearby tree bounce, shedding its load of snow. I let out a long breath. That was all it was. Just snow falling from the trees. I lay back down. A few minutes later, the sound that came wasn't from a tree branch. The sound was close. Very close. It was the slow, deliberate crunching of someone walking the circle around my truck. I held my breath, my heart pounding so hard I was sure it could be heard outside. Suddenly, the driver's side door handle rattled. I squeezed my eyes shut. It rattled again, more forcefully this time. Someone was pressing down on it, testing it. For the first time in my life, I felt fear physically crawl up my spine. Sleep was impossible now. My eyes were closed, but my mind was wide awake. Every sound, the low hum of the heater, the dim glow of the dashboard, felt amplified. Outside was a silence so profound it felt like if I opened the door, the quiet itself would rush in and smother me. It was then that I heard something new, not footsteps, not the handle. At first I thought it was a trick of the wind. I listened harder. Far in the distance it sounded like 2 or 3 people were talking to each other in low murmurs. The sound was too faint to make out words, but the cadence was human. The pauses for breath, the rhythm of conversation, it was all there. For the first time that night I felt a surge of hope. I sat up, slowly parted the curtain, and stared into the darkness. I couldn't see anything, but the voices were still there, and they were moving, heading from my right side deeper into the woods. They must be locals, I thought. Then another thought followed, cold and sharp. What if they're the ones who were walking around my truck? I checked my watch. 2 a.m. In these conditions, no sane person would be out here, but I told myself it could be an emergency. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my heavy-duty flashlight. For a second, I thought about flicking on my headlights to signal them, but then I hesitated. If they weren't people, if I drew the attention of something else, I didn't turn on the lights. I cracked open the window just enough to hear more clearly. The voices were definitely heading down the mountain. A desperate panic began to build in me. If I didn't go now, they would disappear, and I would be left alone, in the truck, in the snow, with the silence. I slowly pushed the door open. The cold hit me like a physical blow, trying to force me back inside. The snow was up to my knees. I took one step and my foot sank deep. I closed the door, locked the truck, and just stood there for a moment. My gut was screaming at me, "Get back inside, you fool." There's still time. But the voices were still there, clearer now. 2 or 3 distinct tones. I switched on my flashlight, then immediately switched it off. If they were human, the light would stop them. If they weren't, it was better to stay in the dark. I started walking, following the sounds. I'd only gone a few yards when the voices stopped. Abruptly, as if a switch had been flipped, I froze, holding my breath. The only sounds were the thumping of my own heart and the hiss of my breath in the frigid air. "Hello?" I called out, my voice swallowed by the snow. I tried again, louder. "Is anyone there?" No answer, but I had the distinct, unnerving feeling that I had been heard. At that exact moment, I heard a crunch in the snow behind me. I whipped around, nothing. But the sound wasn't in front of me anymore. It felt like it was all around me. I switched the flashlight on again, pointing it at the ground. My own footprints were clear in the snow. But alongside them was another set of prints, keeping pace with mine, but a few feet away. I swung the light forward. The prints vanished. I swung it back. They were there again. My throat went dry. Maybe they were old prints, I told myself. But no, they were fresh. They were walking with me. Just then, I heard the voices again, from far away. But this time they weren't murmurs. They sounded wrong, artificial, like something was mimicking human speech. A profound terror washed over me. I had to make a choice. Get to those voices or get back to the truck. Standing here was the most dangerous thing I could do. I pushed forward, moving as fast as I could through the deep snow. The voices seemed to be getting closer, and that's when I saw it. I reached a small, natural clearing. The trees thinned out, offering a view of the valley below. I swept my flashlight across the area. Where I expected to find people, there was nothing. No one, no lights, no movement. Just snow, trees, and a crushing silence. I took a step forward, then another, and looked at the ground. There were footprints, but they weren't fresh. It looked like someone had been standing there for a while and then had simply vanished. How was that possible? I thought. I heard the voices, but no, one is here. At that moment, from right behind me, came a low, guttural growl. Electricity shot through my body. I spun around. In the darkness, I saw 4, then 5, then more pairs of eyes glowing in the night. Wild dogs. Coyotes, maybe. They had me surrounded, bodies low, ears flat, growls echoing in a way that seemed to vibrate inside my chest. I tried to back away, but behind me was the steep drop-off. I blasted them with the full power of my flashlight. Their eyes glowed even brighter. It's over, I thought. I started praying, reciting whatever verses I could remember. The lead animal lunged, its growl turning into a snarl. But then it froze, as if it had hit an invisible wall. Its ears went back, its aggressive growl turned into a terrified whimper, and it started to back away. One by one, they all did. For a split second, I felt relief. But that relief was quickly replaced by a far more terrible fear. The dogs weren't afraid of me. They were afraid of something else. And that something was not me. I slowly scanned the darkness. Behind me, beside me, in front of me. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. A heavy presence that seemed to press down on the air, making it hard to breathe. The dogs suddenly turned and bolted, disappearing into the night. I was left alone, panting, hard out of control. I lowered my flashlight to the ground. And that's when I saw the thing that made my blood run cold. My boot prints were clear in the snow, but right next to them, overlapping one, was another print. It was large, deep, and it was not the print of a dog. It was not the print of a man. And the most terrifying part, it had been walking with me the entire time. I swung the light around. It was as if the tracks were circling me. That was the moment I finally accepted it. I was not alone. I didn't waste another second. I turned and fled back toward the truck. I couldn't run, but I moved as fast as my legs could carry me through the snow. I didn't look back. I knew that looking back would stop me for good. All I could think was, get to the truck. It's your only shelter. When I finally reached the rig, I saw something that drained the last bit of strength from my body. Around the truck, clear as day in the snow, were the fresh tracks of a mountain lion. So fresh it looked like it had just passed by. I scrambled into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it. I collapsed into the sleeper, unable to catch my breath. The heater was running, but the cold I felt now was coming from inside my own mind. The truck no longer felt safe. It didn't feel like a shelter. It felt like a trap. Because I knew, with a certainty that chilled me more than any blizzard ever could, that some things don't need a door to get in. The time was 3:30 a.m. Outside, the snow had started again, a light but steady fall. I knew that if it continued like this, getting out of the truck by morning would be impossible. I asked myself the one question no driver ever wants to ask. Do I sit here and freeze to death? Or do I get out and take my chances with whatever is out there? I looked outside. The snow around the truck was a mess of different tracks. Some were mine, some belonged to the coyotes, and some I couldn't place at all. I hardened my heart. The truck wasn't a shelter anymore. It was a tomb. I pulled on my boots, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and opened the door. I locked the truck and started walking downhill, fighting the overwhelming urge to look back. I was certain that if I turned around, I would see something standing very, very close to me. After walking for what felt like an eternity, but was probably an hour and a half, I saw a light, a faint, dim glow in the distance, the kind of light that only comes from a human dwelling. My legs moved faster on their own. The house was so small, it was almost buried in the snow, looking more like a cluster of rocks than a cabin. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. I heard a faint rustling from inside, then silence. "Please!" I yelled, my voice hoarse. "I'm a traveler, stranded in the snow." After a few long moments, the door creaked open. A man stood inside. His face was tired, his eyes were deep set, and his voice was measured and quiet when he spoke. "It's late. I'm stuck in the blizzard," I managed to say. He didn't ask any more questions. He just opened the door wider and gestured for me to come in. Inside, a fire was burning in a small tin drum. I sat down close to it, soaking in the warmth. He heated some water for me and gave me a piece of bread. I ate, but I could feel his eyes on me the entire time. Then he said the words that shook me to my core. "Did you see anything up there?" I lowered my head. "I didn't see everything," I said, "but I felt everything." He nodded slowly. "Sometimes that's enough." I gathered my courage and asked, "People say other things are out here at night." He was silent for a few moments, staring into the fire. Then he spoke. "The mountains don't empty out at night, son. They just empty out of folks like us. The voices," I whispered, "the ones that sound like people." He tossed another piece of wood into the fire. A flame shot up. "Those voices," he said, "they come to lead you off the path." My hands started to tremble. "I have to get down the mountain, any way I can." He nodded. "Not alone." He stood up, wrapped a heavy shawl around himself, and opened the door. "I'll take you. To the other side of the ridge." "The other side?" I asked, confused. "Where they don't go," he said simply. We stepped out into the biting cold. The snow was deep, but he moved with a purpose. He walked ahead, and I followed. He kept repeating, "Keep praying and stay quiet." Several times I felt like something was walking just behind us. I'd stop, he'd stop. "Don't look back," was all he would say. We walked for 4 hours. Finally he stopped. "From here, it's straight down. You'll find a road." "And you?" I asked. He didn't smile. He just said, "My path ends here." I thanked him. He shook my hand. It was surprisingly warm. Then he turned and disappeared into the darkness. I kept going down for 2 more hours. Then my phone buzzed. A signal. I didn't answer the call. I just kept walking, and finally I saw it. Paved asphalt. A road. It didn't look like an ordinary thing. It looked like a lifeline pulling me back to the world of the living. I was exhausted. My feet were numb. But the fear had been replaced by a stubborn resolve. Just get down. The sky was changing, the deep black turning to a soft pre-dawn gray. As I stumbled onto the paved road, I saw 2 figures in the distance, walking with their heads down, likely heading for morning prayers. They saw me and stopped, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock and fear, as if they couldn't comprehend where I had come from. One of them quickly made a call. A little while later, a jeep appeared. The driver helped me in. The moment I sat down, my body went limp. As we drove down, the snow thinned. I asked the driver, "What's the name of that place up there where my truck is?" He stopped the Jeep, got out, and pointed up at a peak. "You see that summit?" he asked. I looked up, and the hair on my arm stood on end. In the daylight, the mountain was impossibly high. I couldn't believe I had walked all the way down from there. "Not many people go up there at night," the driver said quietly. I said nothing. It took 3 days for the sun to come out and the roads to clear enough to recover my truck. The whole time I felt like that night hadn't ended. When we got back up there, the truck was exactly as I had left it. Nothing missing, no damage. But the snow all around it was covered in footprints, fresh ones. The recovery crew said it was probably just a local who came to check it out. I nodded, but I knew they weren't human prints. They were the same deep, strange tracks I had seen in the dark, the ones that had walked with me. I never told anyone the full story, not about the voices, the door handle, the coyotes, or the thing I never saw but felt with every fiber of my being. I just said I walked down. That was enough. I still drive my truck today, through snow, through mountains. But I have one rule I live by now. I never, ever stop on a mountain at night. Because some places are a path by day, but at night they belong to someone else. And they don't invite you in. They just call for you.